Ashley Bennett's story is one for the ages. What does that mean? It makes me very uncomfortable, for one. I've gotten to know Trish so very well over the past several years, and despite the jarring result, the incongruity of the story itself doesn't jar me in the way that Ashley's does. Because despite being so smart, you first meet her and immediately you think of all the young female attorneys that you meet. Ashley Bennett pleaded guilty to essentially breaking into her own house and to stabbing a man who was trying to kill her boyfriend. The problem I ran into again and again when talking to Ashley was just the constant feeling that this woman could not possibly have taken the plea deal that she did to plead guilty to something she clearly was not guilty of. In my experience, the downside to being willing to have the courage to try a case, even a case that I thought was open and shut like Trish's case, is what happens to you when you lose that case. It happened to me in Trish's case, and even after listening to the evidence, I was beyond convinced of what the result would be: not guilty. Take that crushing feeling and then complete devastation that I felt when trying Trish's case and apply it to a lawyer having to tell Ashley what to do. Maybe I'm ascribing way too pure motives for the lawyer. Maybe the fear of losing, maybe the 18 months that Ashley spent in the county jail before she pleaded guilty made a difference. Made her a different person than the one I met when I went to Chillicothe. But the real secret, as I've seen, is that fear is the great killer. Fear sends people to prison. Fear makes people commit horrible financial mistakes. It makes people react violently and wrongly. When Ashley spent a year in jail thinking that she could fight the case, the prosecutor came back and made an offer. Take 7 years or we're upping the charges to include life in prison. Ashley wants to open and was opening a dance studio. Those words changed Ashley Bennett's life. Those words scared her into pleading guilty. When you first hear her story, it's hard to imagine that someone with her intellect allowing herself to be shipped to prison. By next week, I'm going to have the infrastructure in place to allow you to support these women. I'll let you know how that's going to work. But there you are, 2 different stories, the same result. Lives spent living behind bars who should definitely not be there. This is what wrong justice is all about. Telling the stories of the people who can't tell it. Trying to right some wrongs. Maybe there's a chance that both Trish and Ashley can have some post-conviction relief, which is exactly what we're trying to be doing in both of their cases. It is a big responsibility. Join in the story of wrong justice, and let's see how it turns out. So I guess basically the first place is, why are you here?
I'm here because I received a charge for first-degree burglary and second-degree assault.
Well, not only received a charge, you pled guilty to this.
Pled guilty, yes.
Okay. Now, in looking at this stuff, I took whatever time I could. I looked at the letter you sent me. And in the letter, you obviously had a lot of concerns about the way that the whole prosecution was done.
Yes.
And I don't know, do you have another letter for me here? Is that what you got? Or
no, This is actually just the same letter. I brought it with me today.
All right. All right. Now, how old are you?
I'm 33.
33. Okay. Now, some of the stuff, because it's like, some of this stuff was kind of almost written in code in a way, where it was like, you were saying that there were other things going on, but then I went through and read all those motions, and it doesn't really say what those things were. And so I guess that's kind of the first part of this is,
Okay.
what is all that stuff?
All the stuff that was not said on my behalf. The first thing that I think is the most important is the battered spouse syndrome.
Okay.
That was something that I was really hoping my attorney, I spoke to him about that as well, and he just seemed to not want to use it. So when I got to Vandalia, whenever I got to prison, I did my own research in the law library, and I found the revised statutes in Missouri that clearly shows where my actions were in the right, where I was in the right.
Where you could have raised that as a defense.
Absolutely, where I could have raised that as a defense. And I asked my attorney to get me a psychological evaluation to get a diagnosis to be, I'm basically considered a battered spouse.
Okay.
And I have that right here, the statute. And so it does say that I may, subject to provisions of the subsection of 2 of this, which 2 says by means of a dangerous instrument, which I did use
Right.
via a knife. So, in my case. So, I am permitted to use physical force upon another person when and to the extent that he or she reasonably believes that such force to be necessary to defend herself or a third party, which is the main ingredient in my case. Because I was not exactly attacked. My fiance at the time was attacked. He was being stabbed and then
By who?
by my alleged victim, and his name was Colton Anderson.
Okay.
And so he had control of the knife, Mr. Anderson did. My fiance was under this knife, and it was right at his chest. He looked over at me and said these exact words, "Baby, help me, he's got the knife, he's got the knife." So I proceeded to intercede on his behalf, only to the extent that I felt Mr. Anderson was no longer a threat.
Only to the extent that you thought that he was no longer a threat.
Yes. As in I stabbed him twice in the shoulder.
Okay.
Yes.
You did not, in other words, you didn't stab him 25 times.
Correct. No, not like I was alleged to have stabbed him 7 times, which was complete fabrication of the truth.
All right. So then the question becomes, you chose to take a plea. And why did you do that?
I'm sorry, chose to take what?
Take a plea.
Oh, take a plea. Yeah. Oh, this is the big factor. This is where the letter comes in. Mainly, I sat in Platte County Detention Center for 18 months.
It sounds to me, just from what I've heard, that you would have a really good chance to take this in front of a jury and have a good self-defense claim, if nothing else.
Absolutely.
You know, and so the question is, why did you decide to plead guilty when you were clearly dissatisfied with the public defender from the beginning?
Correct. That is an excellent question. Okay. I felt threatened, intimidated. I felt like I had no other choice, 0 other options, not even the option to get a bond reduction to then hire my own advocacy. I didn't even have that choice. I was not allotted a bond reduction once in 18 months. It remained at $25,000 cash only. You couldn't even use a bondsman. So that was not an option. So I was forced to use the depleted public defense resources, and I felt threatened and backed into a corner to take a plea that I did not feel like I was guilty of.
Okay.
Now, the reasons being for taking the plea, other than the my defense not being what I felt that I deserved and needed for a case such as this, the prosecution proceeded about 1 year, I believe, I think it was 11 months into my stay, to amend my charges from 2 felonies to 5 felonies. These 5 felonies carried life sentences, 15 years to life.
Is this the same prosecutor that ended up getting something going on with his bar or
Yes.
something like that?
Yes, sir. Eric Zahn. Yeah, he was actually sued for an ethics complaint by John O'Connor, I believe. And John O'Connor was successful in his efforts, and he did prove that Mr. Zahn and his office, which is the same prosecution that prosecuted me, were absolutely violating the law with their ethics, how they were practicing.
Now, before we get any further in this, one of the things that I want to ask you, because you've got to understand that not everybody has been a lawyer and done these things again and again and again. There are going to be plenty of people who would say, why would you ever plead guilty to something you were not guilty of? Tell me what your thinking was there.
Oppression. I can sum it up in one word. I was oppressed.
Okay.
Very oppressed.
Okay, I just have to play devil's advocate here and say, you are a very pretty girl. You managed to do that under very extreme circumstances, and you speak very eloquently. And my question is, what in the world would you have felt oppressed about?
Well, thank you, first of all. Thank you. It's an obsolete system of oppression that we were in. The prosecution will do absolutely anything to arrive at a plea of guilty for no reason other than business reasons.
Well, I mean, they're going to say
they're
trying to get, if they had to go to trial with everybody, nothing would ever get done. We understand that.
Correct.
And, when I was looking at the motions that you filed throughout the case, and I've got some questions about those, but, your things about the way the prosecution handled it, I looked at it and I'm like, I don't think that, certainly maybe the first time you're through a system you might feel that way. But certainly when you're faced with, do they file more charges to try to get people to plead? Yeah, they do. And I don't think there's anything unethical about that, But that's what I'm just trying to figure out, because to me, when I'm thinking about putting this case out there, yeah, all good. I just go,
Okay.
this gal is very intelligent, obviously, and everything else, and I'm just trying to figure out, and you were clearly filing the motions earlier.
Correct.
And I'm just trying to figure out what changed, what caused you to plead guilty.
Okay, I can explain that. So whenever I was faced with these amended charges, which would be 2 armed criminal action, which is unclassified felonies, automatic 3 years, ran consecutive. So I would do 6 years off automatically. So we were talking about why I, all of a sudden, after sitting in county for 18 months, decided to go ahead and volunteer to go to prison, to plead guilty, to say, okay, I did it, you win, I give. Like I was saying, first of all, I can sum it all up in the oppression. I was just oppressed. I felt backed into a corner and felt I had no other option, especially when my attorney himself was saying, if we go to trial, these are all of the prosecution's arguments. This is what they're going to bring up. And they're also going to bring up that you could be guilty by association, which would be, you would be held accountable for everything Mr. Seward did.
And who's Mr. Seward?
Mr. Seward is my co-defendant.
The boyfriend?
At the time. Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
Yes, boyfriend at the time.
Let's leave the misters behind, all that kind of stuff. Let's talk a little more freely. So, Seward was your boyfriend.
Correct.
And Colton was your ex, what?
Colton Anderson was my roommate's boyfriend at the time. Yeah,
Your
they're partners.
roommate's boyfriend.
Yes, they're partners. They're homosexuals. Yes.
Okay, all right. And so why was he attacking
Mr. Seward?
Okay, I didn't understand this. I just realized let's go ahead and go into this.
Okay, we can.
All right.
So it all began, I'm going to call him do you want me to call him my boyfriend or my co-defendant, Mr. Seward?
If you use your boyfriend, call him your boyfriend.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my boyfriend was accused of stealing my roommate, Jesse Hickman's pain medication, pills.
Okay.
And then these are pills that he did attain off the black market.
Okay. All
They
right.
were not prescribed to him. So, and I believe he probably could have. He did have a drug addiction. You know, he was struggling with it, struggling to get clean. So they began to argue verbally all day. It's been going on for about a week since my boyfriend moved in with me, us, Jesse and I. So they had been arguing for about a week about this, and Jesse decided that he was no longer welcome in the home. My boyfriend was no longer welcome in the home.
Okay, this is confusing here. So Jesse is your roommate.
Correct. Roommate.
And Jesse decides that he's no longer welcome in the home because you and
Mr. Seward?
Seward, boyfriend,
Yes, correct.
are now just having sex all over the place and being really hard to deal with. I mean, is that why I felt
no,
like he
not
was...
necessarily. He just didn't want to be stolen from anymore.
Okay, and you think that Seward, or he thinks that Seward stole his pills?
Correct.
Okay.
He was accusing him, so he wanted him to be removed from the residency, and instead of going about it properly by giving us a 30-day notice and contacting the sheriff and having us, or not me, because it had nothing to do with me, having Mr. Seward served and then vacated from the apartment.
Right.
He didn't do that. What he did was waited for the opportunity where both of us were gone, and of course we had been fighting, not we, I couldn't put me in the mix, but Jesse and my boyfriend were fighting about this particular subject of stealing medication. So my boyfriend left so there would not be an altercation.
Okay.
And when he left, I said, Jesse, I'm going to go talk to him. I'm going to get this figured out. We left. We were gone for 2 hours. We decided to just take a walk, We went to Walmart and just had a 2-hour, break from all the drama. And I think I had it figured out where Joe was going to stay 1 more week and he was going to find somewhere else to live.
Okay.
I was trying to settle the argument. When we came back, Jesse Hickman and his boyfriend, Mr. Anderson, had so kindly taken all of our property, including mine, and thrown them outside, as well as smashed my $700 cell phone to pieces.
Right.
So, and we were locked out, unlawful lockout. I had a key, my key was inside, and we had no way in other than forced entry. And then eventually, 2 hours later, after trying to figure out what we were going to do, my boyfriend's cell phone ended up dying. It was almost dead, and so we needed electricity, of course, in which I paid for to keep the lights on. And so he decided to do what he felt was necessary other than call the law. Of course, I wanted to call the law. He was not having it. The unfortunate reality is he is a criminal. He is an ex-gang member from California.
Okay, who?
Mr. Seward. My boyfriend.
Your boyfriend.
I keep calling him Mr. Seward because that's what I've always called him. I don't associate him with my boyfriend anymore. So my boyfriend, yes, he lived in California and LA and was involved in gangs out there. I brought him over here, I think in 2015 or 16. He decided to shoulder check the door, bust it open, breaking the lock. When we entered the apartment, I turned the corner and there they are with knives. Jesse, my roommate, and his boyfriend Colton Anderson. They were armed with knives, so they were prepared for a fight. They knew there were going to be trouble, and even in some of the depositions that my attorney did, they freely admitted that yes, we armed ourselves because we knew there'd be trouble. So therefore, knowing that they had done something unjust against someone, there was going to be trouble, and who Mr. Seward was, they knew who he was. He was going to become aggressive if need be.
Right.
So.
So let's just ask the question that would immediately be asked: was meth involved in all this?
No, there's no meth involved.
Okay.
No methamphetamine.
All right.
Nothing. No.
Okay.
Only alcohol. There was. I will admit, everyone was drinking earlier that day. It was summer, and I had a couple of mixed drinks earlier at the pool. I was not intoxicated.
Okay.
My boyfriend was not intoxicated. They, however, were completely intoxicated drunk and mixing that with pain medications, and we already know how that mixes not well.
There's a lot more to Ashley Bennett's story, and I'm going to sit down to tell it as I get some time. But what strikes me again is how well-spoken she is, and how there is an entire strain of people residing in prison who should not be there. She should open her dance studio and be able to help little girls do pirouettes instead of having the horrible situation that she faces and deals with in prison every day. Luckily, as I said before, there is post-conviction relief, which both she and Trish are entitled to, and we are attempting to get them to be able to use. Hopefully, both of them will have very short stints in prison. I am talking to other people. I am talking to other resources to get these things brought to bear, because both of them should be out in the open and not confined behind the walls of the Chillicothe Correctional Facility. Until next week, I hope you subscribe to Wrong Justice. I hope you subscribe to the Dale Wiley Show. I hope you spend some time looking at dalewiley.com and learning about the books and options and things to do there. And above all, I hope you have a great first weekend of June and really get out and enjoy the sun and enjoy the freedom that you have being outside of the prison walls. Take the time, enjoy it, and have a good